So, this is a good day to talk about electric vehicles. And when someone said, "Would you like to test drive an electric vehicle?" you go, "Why not?" And the reason, I think, one of the first time I was in an electric vehicle before I was a colleague, and it was in Utah somewhere, and we went out for lunch, and they said, "Oh, I've got an electric vehicle. I'll take my car." And then we went out to lunch, and then coming out from the mall, he said, "Look, I'm just going to turn into the right. I'm going to the main road now, and you see the difference." So the car was coming on the right. He turned left and then floored it, and it just took off. And it was one of the smaller, normal vehicle. It was absolutely exhilarating. It was just a pleasure for those 5 seconds of acceleration. And I think that is one of those things when you see videos. It used to be popular on YouTube, but it's no longer popular. Where you see videos of Teslas taking, what's it called, Lamborghinis or Bugattis or Ferraris and the Tesla. And within the first, 10 seconds, it was gone. And people are saying, if these electric cars are able to beat supercars, so what's the point of buying a supercar? But anyway, that's a discussion for another day. The whole point is that a lot of companies now, electric vehicle companies, are pushing people to, adopt the new tendency, that the new trends of, look, this is the future. Buy an electric vehicle, buy one. And you're thinking, I test drive this. This is in Orlando, by the way, and they had this Electrify show where you have electric motorcycles, e-bikes, e-scooters, anything that is just motorized and is electric powered. And it was quite an interesting thing to see. And there was even a pink Tesla. Anyway, never mind. There was a pink Tesla. It was really bizarre to see. And then you had what's it called, the Cybertruck that was introduced when it was still fashionable until 2025, of course. Anyway, so you had all that, and it was just a lot of things, people showing you what they have. And there was a survey that was done. And after, the manufacturers were pushing people to go electric, and it says a lot of people, there was a Gallup poll found that 44% of Americans are either seriously considering or potentially considering EV purchase in the future. And and that's a decrease from 2023. So in 2023, it was a bit more popular. In 2024, less people wanted to buy electric vehicles, and in 2025 electric vehicles took a downturn because of Tesla, basically, and all the other issues surrounding Teslas. And people said, well, I'm not really interested. But then I think part of the reason why people are no longer, they are interested in the car itself, but they're just worried, because when you think about it, no matter what type of car you buy, if it's petrol powered, gas powered, or electric vehicle, it doesn't matter which one, something they have in common is that it is a big purchase. It doesn't matter what, it is big purchase. It's a huge chunk of your money that goes into the type of car. It doesn't matter what type, if it's a used car or a new one. And something that people don't want is this: you're driving on the motorway, on the highway, and it breaks down, or something simple happens to the car, and then it means it costs you a fortune to repair. And because of those worries, a lot of people are a bit hesitant. I've been to multiple electric car shows where they allow you to test drive it. It is always a joy. I could remember once coming from Heathrow, and going into we were going from was it Heathrow, going to the hotel, and we ordered an Uber, and I think one of those X3 Uber Tesla just showed up. It was cool. Then you see all the 360 cameras, and when he reversed, it just, the minimalistic design, the huge iPad in the middle, it was just nice to see. But then it still didn't convince me to buy one. And I think part of this is that this is one of the problems with electric vehicles, that the upfront cost, it costs a bit more than your usual car to buy an electric car. And that is one of the problems. And I think at the time when Tesla was rather fashionable, it was a status symbol. You know, you have a Tesla, ooh, you've made it in life. And the reason for this is that it is an expensive car. Even the cheapest Tesla was rather expensive. And then when people started posting online, hey, oh, how far? What's the range? That is just like, what's the range? That is the question people started asking. It became sort of an anxiety-inducing question that people were just really worried about the range. How far can you go with your car? This is the same level of anxiety when you're driving down a motorway and you see on your car that the light comes on, and it tells you that you should go and get petrol now. And then you look on the app, and then you don't see any sign for a petrol station very close to you. You just worry that, oh, this car is going to break down in the middle of nowhere and I'm going to be stuck, especially at night. So imagine having an electric car and that is your constant worry. That is not good. But others have said, well, that problem is a bit blown out of proportions for the simple reason that they say it's not such a big problem. Think about it. They said most people would use it. If you use it for work and your car, the range, say it's 400 kilometers or miles per the range. And you know that if you go to work, say you do 50 miles or 50 kilometers, that is enough. So you could probably just use it for 3 days without the need to charge. But what most people do is that if you buy one, if you don't live in a flat, of course, then you can buy one. When you come back home, you charge it overnight, and the next day it's ready, full charge. What's the big deal about that? And now others, if you live in a flat and you still have an electric vehicle, then what you could do is in most offices and parking space now, they have sections for electric vehicles where you just park your car there, go do whatever you need to do, go to work, and then come back. It's also charged. So they said range is a non-issue for daily use. Of course, if you're going on a long road trip, then you need to basically plan it out a bit more. And so that is something that anxiety, range is an anxiety-inducing factor in electric cars. Then another worry people have about electric cars is the battery life and replacement. And I've seen people post online that there was an issue with the battery, and then they just said, well, it's going to cost you so much that it's not even worth it. And you're thinking, a normal car battery, you just replace it. I don't know how much it is, $50 or £50 or something like that. It's a no-brainer. Your car wouldn't start, the battery is dead. You either recharge it, and if it's not holding the charge, you charge it long enough to drive to the next replacement to the garage and have it replaced. So that's another thing. So that is, it's not the same level of problems for petrol-powered car. And then cars, because I think something that people tend to forget is that electric vehicles are relatively new compared to your normal cars. And they're still trying to push it for people to adopt it, and the more people buy it, the more the cheaper it would get, basically. And it's going to then the tech will improve, and safety features and batteries will charge faster. By the way, apparently BYD in China is testing fast charging, like ultra fast charging, which would only take about 5 to 10 minutes. If they're able to pull that off, and that would be a game changer for a lot of people. Anyway, so that's one thing. Now even with all that promise of, saving the environment, people still worry about cars and electric cars. So the government says in some countries, if you buy an electric car because you're contributing to saving the environment, basically pollution and all that, we'll give you a tax rebate. So if you buy one, sometimes you could get a rebate of up to $7,500. That is quite decent. I say decent, I'm not saying it's great, because when you think about the cost of your average car, 7,500 rebate is still okay. It's better than nothing. And so you have that rebate that they have, that some countries offer you, which is a good thing. But I don't think it is big enough for people to think, if I do this, then the rebate is going to cover this cost. Think about it, the same thing why a lot of people are not really adopting solar panels is for the same reason. You get rebates, and you could even sell your electricity to the electric company. But the problem is, it's not often enough, and the initial cost of ownership and the time you get your money back is often not worth it. Only people who are really adopting it en masse are people who are doing van life or homestead, people living in remote locations where you don't have access to the grid, and they invest in those, and because it's just the only option. You could buy petrol powered generators, but it's just a different problem anyway. So with a solar panel, if the sun is shining, you get electricity, and that's it. It's less noise, less worry about running out of petrol. You get the idea? But anyway, so back to rebates for electric cars. Then you have others when they say access to electric cars lanes. So basically during rush hour there are special lanes that maybe are used for taxis, and then to encourage more people to adopt electric vehicles, the government says you could use these special lanes during rush hour if you have an electric car. So basically the government is creating an incentive for people to adopt electric cars, but then it just seems not to be enough for a lot of people to change their minds. And I think, for example, an affordable electric vehicle is almost about $30,000. And think about that, how many people have $30,000 to splash out on an electric vehicle? You could get a loan from the bank, but then you have the mid-range, which are the ones, the nice ones, 37 to almost 50,000. See that? So 50k for a used car, and now you have luxury e-vehicles, which are over 100,000. See that? So this is where I think the difficulty is, that some people are hesitant for some of the obvious reasons, but then the initial cost of it also becomes a problem, where people thinking, oh yes, it's nice, but why does it have to be so expensive? And the reason why it has to be so expensive is also another problem, especially in the American market, where protectionism is preventing brands from China to come into the market. For example, you have BYD, Build Your Dreams, and other Chinese brands of cars that are available, but they're not often allowed into the country in America because, you need to protect the industry in your country. And they're saying it's not fair because most of the Chinese brands are subsidized by the government, and if they're subsidized, what's going to do is that if they sent and flood the market in the US, it's going to basically drown and kill the local market. So you need to protect that, but then it means also that the prices stay up. Anyway, you get the problem that they're dealing with here. Now, that said, there are other brands now, where Tesla was number one a few years back, and then others were saying, well, Tesla was also not selling directly to a dealership. They're basically selling their own cars, and it was cool, and you see them every now and then. Everyone looks at you, it's cool. But then others started to get into the industry. Then you have hybrids, and hybrids were it was a way to ease people into it, that you're no longer worrying about range. So you drive normally on electric cars, and if it if it runs out of juice, you switch to electric, to gas, and that's it. You solve that problem. It was good, but even then, people are saying, well, it's not as ecologically friendly, because what you're basically doing is using the gas powered to charge the electric part of it, and then using it whenever you want. So anyway, the debate is still there, that is it the best option, hybrid? But I don't think they want you to use hybrid. They want you to go full electric. So you have, for example, the number one, the fancy, the sexy one, Tesla, and then you have the Model 3, Model Y, and Model S. And the fun thing about when you see some of these models and the door opens up like something you see in the films, it just looks really nice. See, it looks nice. But then people are saying, well, if you go to the doors open upward, it's nice. But then if it's not even new, it's just a sort of a modernized version of an old tech that was available years back, and people are saying, look at that, yeah, it's nice. But then if you're going into a parking, especially at a closed parking like a mall or supermarket, and you parked close to someone, it's going to be a bit of a pain trying to get out. You see that? But others, or if the height is a bit too low, so you get, anyway, all those problems. But now most EVs just have your normal door that you open, and you're not really worried about that. Then you have Ford also got into the game. Hyundai has one, which is the Ioniq 6. Ioniq 5 or 6. They're really nice. They're like sort of compact SUVs. You've got a sufficient space at the back for your luggage, and then you have a space for the drivers. It would seat 4 people comfortably. In the middle, where you have the aircon, you don't have any leg room, so basically anyone sitting in the middle would have to have his legs spread out, and then basically encroach on the passengers next to you. So that's another thing. And then Mercedes got into it. The Mercedes ones are really high end, they're very expensive. The problem with them is that they have these really huge dashboards that are really just it's like they have an empty space, because now you've removed the engine and all that. So what do? Stick a dashboard in there, and then a screen. And what do you do with the screen? I don't know. It's not as if you're going to start watching films whilst driving. So it doesn't. Some of the designs are not really intuitive, but I think that it's just they're starting out. And sooner or later, it's going to get much better, and people would be able to, the design will be a bit more intuitive. The minimalist, basically, one of the problems with people trying to catch up to Tesla is the minimalistic look of Tesla. So if you do that, people are saying, so why should we buy this instead of buying a Tesla? So everyone's trying to come up with something that is not a Tesla, but when they move away from something not a Tesla, which is a minimalistic look, then they often get the design wrong. And you look at it, you're thinking, what were they thinking? And because it wasn't even functional. I know people have complained about Tesla being, I want the knobs and bobs. I want to be able to turn things around, not touch screen. I think the people complain most about that, those are the older ones, older generation who, the ones who grew up with normal cars, petrol cars, and now complaining about a touchscreen. But the younger generation who grew up with touchscreens are like, oh, like this. They've got no point of reference, and that is a good thing. But the problem is that the younger generation don't have enough money to buy those new cars. So you cater to people with money, and that's it. When the generation, the poor generation gets older and they have more money, they can go and buy whatever they can enjoy their flat screen. Anyway, so you have Lucid, Nissan Leaf, all these people getting into the game. So now, the advantage of having one, which I think people said, look, you don't have all the too many moving parts. You don't have all the engines, those little transmission thing that moves up and down in your engine. So if you remove that, then it means you have less maintenance. And it almost sounds too good to be true. And what people tend to forget is this, that yes, you don't have the engine knocking. If your engine is knocking, it's making bizarre noise. Then you think you're in trouble, because the price of replacing an engine is going to cost you a lot. Now, this is where it doesn't make sense. The biggest problem with electric cars is the battery. If a battery is damaged, in some cases your car is gone. You cannot replace it. If you replace it, well, I think BYD has something called. They have these automated. There was a YouTube video by, what's his name? Tom Scott. And so you get into the car, you pull into the garage there, you park the car, it tells you where to park the car, and the automation from beneath the car would take out the old battery that's running out, and it would put in a new one, replace the battery, and in another 5-10 minutes you're done and you're ready to go full charge on a new battery. So that is the future, and that is what they're actually looking into, where you're able to instead of charging, you're in the middle of the road, you're not going to wait to top up, not even top up, you get a new battery. It puts it in, the automated system puts it in for you, and you're good to go. So with that, battery repairs is a big problem, and at the moment there's proof of concept, put it that way, but the American market, the European market are not there yet, and that is why people actually worry, because I can't imagine just because of a battery your car is gone, is written off. So what do? You buy it puts you off buying another car, another electric car. So another thing is that in Costa Rica, a guy bought one of those Chinese car. I don't know if it's Geely or BYD or any of those. Anyway, he bought one. He was really happy with it. And a few months later, he had problems with it, and they were just basically putting him off and telling him, basically the sales guy already made his sales, and he doesn't really care. And so one day he got upset, drove the car into the sales room and blocked the sales room with his car. And he said, I'm not moving this until you guys fix this problem. And it made news because, it was a slow story day. And then it made news. People talked about it. And then people said, exactly. That is why I say never buy a new an electric vehicle, and also never buy an electric vehicle without spare parts available or mechanics able to fix it in the country. And the reason why it's difficult is this: they're selling cars, but you need specialized training and equipment to fix most electric cars because of the integrated circuit that you use, or the automation. When something goes wrong, the software, you cannot just plug your computer in and try to fix it. So it can be rather spectacular, and because of that, people are like, don't do it. And another thing is that sometimes some people have reported collision. A small collision that maybe a petrol car, you just pull it off or kick the panel somehow, and then it's back on the road. For electric cars, it is not the same. It is very, very difficult to fix any of these, and that is why even collision repair is a problem. And people are thinking, look, it is just too expensive for the pain it gives you, so it's just not worth the hassle. So when you think about that, and then another thing is that third-party parts are not often available for electric cars. So, and this is one of the issues that people talked about, that remember the universal charging port, where Tesla was the standard in the US, and they had the most available networks of charging. And then other people got into the market and they started to have their own separate charging. It became a problem because you're thinking, I've got an electric vehicle, there's a charging point here, but it says Tesla. I cannot charge my car there. So what's the point? I have to drive further away. So there was no universal standard or national standard for charging. And because of that, it became a problem. So I think it's resolved now. But it's still an issue with spare parts. You don't get enough spare parts. Third-party spare parts that you could buy for cheap, because first of all, who's going to try to invest in spare parts where you don't have enough customers to buy it? It's not as if you could easily, do 3D printing of the cars and then say, okay, we've printed this is ready to go. It's on demand. So if you need a spare part on demand, third party, there is no point in investing in a massive factory to produce something that no one's willing to buy. And that is why there are problems now, that the market isn't big enough for the other side of third parties to get involved and make money selling parts. Because of all these conditions, I go test drive an electric car, have a bit of fun, thinking, I'll wait until things improve, then we'll rethink this.